You're here with the Cozy Slippers Book Club, and we're here at D'Angelo's Ritorante, Italiano, and that's 256 South 20th Street, and that's in Philadelphia, PA. And we're here with Eileen Clymer Schwab, and her first novel, The Promise Bridge. Eileen, first off, could you tell us a little something about yourself, as far as your education and your experiences?
Sure. I graduated from Rutgers University. Seems like a long time ago, but I guess it wasn't too far gone. But I was a communication major there, so I always gravitated towards writing. I always loved to write, even as a child, though I really never knew what form it would take in my life. And I truly never thought of myself as a fiction writer. I came to that later on in my life, really after I had my children, and I would periodically, I would take a writer's course at the local community college, mainly to get out of the house and to be around writers, a little something for myself. And I would take writing courses which were usually based around fiction writing. So once when I would go in, we would do these little skill sets and exercises that were based around plotting and building characters and things that are really components to fiction. And I used to love to do them, even though I considered myself a nonfiction writer, because to me it was like putting pieces of a puzzle together. And I really enjoyed it. And I can remember one year when I took the course, it was taught by a wonderful woman who was a published author herself, and she kept me after class the one day after we had done an exercise on plotting. And basically what it was, we would sit in a circle, and people who were working on, each were working on a novel, they would talk about maybe a little problem they were having with their plots, and throwing it out to the group if they had any ideas on how to resolve a plot point. So, I would jump in, because like I said, to me it was like putting together pieces of a puzzle, and I really enjoyed it. And when I was leaving, she said, "Eileen, come back." And I said, "Yeah." And she was kind of laughing when I was walking back, and I said, "What?" And she said, "Eileen, I just want you to know you're a fiction writer. You just don't know it yet." And it really stuck with me, because first of all, I really respected her, and I couldn't deny how much I enjoyed those exercises that were part of that, and it just always stuck in the back of my mind. And at the time, I was working on an article for a local newspaper, and as I was kind of getting towards the end of that project, I had this idea which I would periodically get ideas, but I often thought, "Ooh, how do you fill a book? That's an awful lot to write." So I really never lent myself over to it. I would stay focused on the little projects, the smaller projects, which were easier to do when I was raising children anyway, doing a newspaper article or a magazine article. But I had this idea, and it wasn't Promise Bridge, it's what I called my learning novel, where this idea just kept poking and poking and poking at me. And it got in the way of the writing of the article I was doing. So I thought, you know what, let me just write this out quickly, get it out of my system. I figured it'd be 5 or 6 pages, but get it out of my system so I can get back, because I had a deadline on this article I was writing. But as soon as I started writing this idea out, my writing made sense to me in a way that it just never had before. And I realized that this professor, she was right. I was a fiction writer, just never thought of it that way. But once I kind of gave myself over to it, and instead of, I would get these little ideas, and I just thought everybody did, and I would push them to the back of my mind, because if I would think on what I call my little nuggets, if I think on them, they expand very quickly in my mind. So I keep them kind of tucked away. So whatever I'm writing,
Hi, we're back, and we're with Eileen Clymer Schwab, and we're discussing her novel, Promise Bridge. And we're going to move on to the next question. My next question was, what books have influenced your life most?
That's a good question. I have to, if I'm saying influenced, I would have to say books that I read as a young girl. And it was an array of books. It wasn't like one book that I would say. But it really, I loved that escaping in a book. I loved it. And I was a really quiet child. I'm really shy by nature. And I really gravitated to reading and I loved that escaping away, and I love that. So when I started to write, I knew, like, very often I write the way I like to read, what a reader is looking for. You know, somebody might talk about the way I build a character. It's because that's how I like to read the character. So it is so interconnected to my writing, though at the time I had no idea that it would be. Later now on, as I'm published, one of the things that are, it's kind of ironic, is right now I'm not reading a lot. I have a stack like this high of books waiting to be read by me, because it's hard for me to read while I'm writing, because you get someone else's voice in your head, and it really can get in the way of what you're writing, the flow of what you're writing. So I'm not, however, authors do read. I mean, it's such an important part of our, just of our what we do. And therefore, I know I want to read. I miss reading. I want somebody else's voice in my head. I don't need my own voice in my head all the time.
Who are your favorite authors?
Well, right now, the last book I read was The Help by Catherine Stockett, which literally I think that's been out 2 or 3 years now. But that was the last book that I read. And right around the same time, I read a Song Yet Sung by James McBride. I enjoy him as well. But I have a broad taste in authors. I really do. I really love to read, and what I really need to do is, because I am a new author, I have to learn to be able to read and write at the same time, because authors do that. I think we have to stop.
Time management.
All
Two
right,
more
thank
questions.
you. So we're back again. We're with Eileen. Just before we eat, I just have 2 more questions. But before I do, I just want to mention something about your book that I've noticed. You use a lot of similes and metaphors, which I absolutely enjoyed. It helped add texture to the woven story, and it really made the images very vivid. And I think, as we mentioned earlier off camera, that your writing has such a flow where the story is like, it's just watching it in a trail. You know, it's like there's no going backwards, there's no stopping it to understanding. It's like you just know how to, it's just beautiful the way you write.
Thank you. I really
It's
appreciate
absolutely
that.
wonderful.
Thank you.
It was an enjoyment to actually sit and read it.
Great.
And,
I love
enjoy the
hearing
story.
that.
Even though you had so many characters, a lot of times with a generational novel or political intrigue, you will look back to find out who was whom, but your book flowed and each character was mentioned, and you kept the characters through every single chapter, so that you didn't lose them and you had to say, who the hell, who was that?
Right, good. I'm glad, because that's how I like to read myself. So I certainly do try to write that way, and I appreciate that. It's really kind of you. You like to know that the reader is experiencing the book and taking it in the way you're hoping they are, or, you know, reading a character or connecting with a character the way you hope they will. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
And what's interesting also is the slavery, Civil War theme. You know, many people have written about it, and so when you go into a book like this, you already have pre-assumptions of what it might be. But what I really love is the spoiler alert. But you know, you read the title and you're wondering, okay, how does the title have a connection to what this story is going to be about?
Right.
And I was thinking, okay, well, maybe it's between 2 girls. Maybe it's something that they say to each other. But it was really interesting that it was actually her brother that initiated that, and you know, created the awakening and the main character Hannah Lore.
Yeah.
And I thought that was absolutely wonderful. I was like, oh, I love how she did that. I was not expecting that.
Thank you.
That was a real treat.
Yeah, I really love with the title, and I'm glad, because really a publisher can change the title if they want to. It's up to them in the end, but they kept my original title, Promise Bridge. And I really love it, because when people that I knew learned that I had written a novel and wanted to know, oh, what's it called? And I'll say Promise Bridge, and they go, oh, that's a nice title. And it makes me smile, because I know they don't know how significant meaning. That title is. And I love having a title that really speaks to the heart of a book, and
You kept the
don't
theme through the
realize
whole
it until
thing.
you read it, and it's almost like a secret between me and the writer or the reader, and I love that. And my second book that just released, Shadow of a Quarter Moon, is exactly the same way. You just think, oh, that's a nice title, Shadow of a Quarter Moon, but it really speaks to the heart of what that story is. And again, it's like a secret between the reader and I. And when you finish the book and you think of the title, you think, Promise Bridge, yeah.
And you kept that from the beginning sequence.
Right.
You kept the Promise Bridge, and it, through the whole thing, even when they couldn't touch hands and they raised their hands, it went through the whole thing. And it was, the title was really significant.
Right.
And you don't appreciate it till the end.
Right. It's truly the heart of the story.
Right.
What was your favorite chapter in writing?
It's I really love writing the real emotional scenes of the connection, be it particularly between, I think, Livy and Hannah, but even between Hannah or Cole. Or I love those scenes where there's something just emotionally learning or pulling them a little closer, or that's really what I love to write. I mean, obviously I write historical fiction, but I really like to write about those relationships of people and how that you change each other and change each other's life for the better if you're the right person. Certainly somebody can change your life for the worse too if they're the wrong person, but I like writing about that. So when I'm writing those scenes that are very emotional, they're not easy to write because I really stay with them a while, because I want the reader to really feel what those characters good. I love that. I want the readers to feel what those characters are feeling. So they're the hardest to write, but they're also the most rewarding when you get it on the page and you think, that's how I want it. It's very rewarding to write those. So I would say any of those scenes I like. I don't want to say too much and give away too much of the story for anybody who hasn't read, but even like towards the end when Livy and Hannah come back together again, I love that. There's just a lot. And then there's really crazy scenes that I like, just like I love the scene when I knew Twitch was going to get his in the end. Like, I really loved that.
Oh, I was cheering.
I couldn't wait to get to that
So
scene.
cheering.
I knew all along his fate, as I did for each of those characters. I knew what their fate was. So I could not wait to get to that scene, because it was like symbolically, killing something. Like it was really something I couldn't wait to do. On the flip side, I struggle with scenes like that of Marcus, that I dreaded getting to that scene. Again, I knew the fate of the characters, and somebody has said to me, well, you're the author, can't you change this or change that? The story was the story, and you can't manipulate the story. You have to let it be what it is. And in the case of Marcus, who I just thought was such a heroic character, and he was very indicative of freedmen of the time. Many that had escaped turned right around and came back into the belly of the beast to try to help somebody else out. And I just think, what amazing courage, what amazing humanity to do that. And it was not uncommon. And someone like that, Marcus was not going to stop until he was stopped. And therefore